It all began with an announcement no one saw coming. One ordinary morning, during what was supposed to be another lighthearted interview, Mark Consuelos, our charming, confident co-host and husband, suddenly shifted the atmosphere. The smile faded, the room stilled, and then, in a single breath, he said it. He was stepping away. Not just from the show, but from everything familiar. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a dramatic walk-off. It was quieter, more unsettling. A man finally admitting that something inside him had been breaking for a long time. The audience froze. The internet exploded. Clips of his words spread like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know why. What had driven the man who'd always seemed so full of life, laughter, and love to step back? But behind the applause, the lights, and the cameras, there had been something else. Something no one had seen. For months, maybe years, Mark had been fighting invisible battles. Anxiety that crept into his mornings, perfectionism that chased him through every scene, fear that whispered he wasn't enough. He'd lived as a performer, a husband, a host, but not as himself. And that realization, as painful as it was, began to suffocate him. He confessed later that he felt hollow even while making others laugh, that the applause, once electric, had begun to echo in his chest like emptiness, that he longed not for fame, but for quiet, real quiet. He needed a pause, a breath, a way to rediscover who he truly was before the weight of pretending crushed him completely. But when one half of a partnership changes course, both hearts are shaken. Kelly, brilliant, witty, radiant Kelly, was left standing in the spotlight, her husband's words still hanging in the air. For the first time in a long time, her composure cracked. Her cheeks flushed, her eyes welled. The crowd saw tears, but those weren't just from heartbreak. They were from love, confusion, and the deep ache of watching someone you adore drift into uncertainty. She later admitted, "I didn't cry because I lost faith in him. I cried because I refused to let go of hope." And that hope became her anchor. Behind closed doors, Kelly didn't lash out or crumble. She waited. She asked questions, real questions. She didn't want headlines. She wanted honesty. She told him, "If you're leaving, at least tell me why. Let me understand before you go." It was a quiet act of strength, a boundary drawn not from anger, but from love. She wasn't fighting to win. She was fighting to be seen. And that somehow made Mark pause. Days passed. No new posts, no interviews, just silence. The world speculated. Was it over? Would they divorce? Had their fairy tale finally ended? But inside that silence, something was shifting. Mark was alone in a small hotel room, living out of a suitcase, trying to find clarity. He'd traded the noise for stillness and discovered that the quiet was unbearable. He scrolled through old photos, their first red carpet, family vacations, the mornings they'd laughed through exhaustion. Every memory whispered a truth he'd been running from. Leaving didn't heal loneliness, it magnified it. He realized that rediscovery isn't about escape, it's about reflection. And then one message changed everything. Kelly didn't write a long letter, just a few words. "Are you not present?" That was it. Simple, piercing, human. And it was enough to make him send back an address. A few hours later, she was there, standing at his door. No cameras, no makeup. Just two people with years of love and a mountain of pain between them. When he opened the door, he wasn't the same man she'd last seen on television. His eyes were tired, his voice quiet, his confidence gone. Kelly didn't yell. She didn't even sit right away. She just said, "Talk to me." Not to them, to me. And so he did. He spoke for hours about the pressure, the fear, the emptiness that came from being Mark Consuelos, the charming husband everyone adored. He said he had lost himself somewhere between the applause and the expectations. And when he finally looked at her, he said softly, "I was drowning. I didn't want to pull you down with me. So I ran." She closed her eyes, let the silence linger, then said, "You didn't let go, Mark. You pushed us away. You said you were saving us, but you were erasing us. You said you were drowning. I was right there. All you had to do was tell me you couldn't swim." Her words cut through the haze, not cruelly, but truthfully. She reminded him that marriage wasn't built on perfection. It was built on survival, on staying, even when things fall apart. The vow, she whispered, wasn't about being flawless. It was about not walking alone, even when it hurts. In that quiet, they both saw it. The cost of silence, the power of vulnerability, the courage it takes to admit when you're lost. And for the first time in months, they looked at each other not as co-hosts or celebrities, but as two people still trying to love each other the best they could. It wasn't a movie ending. There were no grand gestures, just truth. Kelly reached across the small table, her voice steady. "I will defend love, and I will not be erased." Something in those words pulled him back. The fire, the humor, the woman who once teased him mercilessly on live TV, that spark was still there. He smiled weakly, half joking through his tears. "So, do I still get to come home?" She sighed, rolled her eyes, and said, "If you think I'm doing this show alone, you're out of your mind." And just like that, their laughter returned. Not the polished, camera-ready laughter everyone knew, but the raw, unfiltered kind that comes from two people who've seen each other at their absolute worst and still choose to stay. Their story wasn't about perfection. It was about rediscovery, honesty, and a love strong enough to survive both fame and fear. And as they quietly found their way back, step by step, day by day, the world got to witness something rare. Not the collapse of a marriage, but its evolution. Because sometimes stepping away isn't the end. Sometimes it's the only way to find your way home again. And for Mark and Kelly, that's exactly what it became. Love, after all, isn't measured by the moments we shine in front of others. It's proven in the moments no one sees. When we stay, when we listen, when we laugh again, even after we've broken apart. So maybe that's what this whole story is really about. Not the shock, not the headlines, not the speculation, but two people learning, once again, how to hold on to love. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it.